Thing that grows will have a little bit of chaos. As leaders, we need to learn to endure a little bit of chaos, because as leaders, we know that you can have control or you can have growth, but you can't have both. If you are too controlling in your leadership, you can become the limiting factor. Trying to eliminate all chaos, you may inadvertently limit the growth. Why is this so important? We know that too much structure, too much control, it stifles the growth. In fact, some of you, you're living in this right now at this moment in your organization. You're stuck in a bureaucratic nightmare. You can't even order a box of pens without getting 3 signatures from departments above you. Why? Because there are so many rules and policies and procedures. I heard someone say that rules and policies and procedures are actually organizational scar tissue. What does that mean? Some idiot made a mistake and someone high up made a rule. The more rules you have, the more scar tissue because of all the mistakes. As a side note, and this is really a step away from my theme, but I would suggest this. When somebody's dumb, lead dumb. Manage dumb. Manage the person, don't make a rule. Too many policies limit progress. As leaders, get comfortable with a little bit of chaos, because you can have control, you can control everything, or you can have growth, but you cannot have both. I will admit that I am a recovering control freak. I tried to control everything, and in the early years, I had a very kind leader in my organization come and tell me that I was getting in the way of progress. I had to grow in my ability to tolerate some chaos to get even more progress. And what happens is when you start to delegate or when you start to let go, sometimes things don't go exactly as you want them to go. And that's when growing leaders start to grow. One of the reasons that growing leaders grow is because they do. If we're always controlling and taking away their ability to do, we also rob them of their ability to grow. I'll play a little game with you to help you see how far I've come in tolerating chaos and creating a growth-minded culture. Could I get at all of our locations, would you mind raising your hand just to make sure your hand raiser works? Can you raise your hand? Raise them up. I need everybody to play along. Just to make sure, okay, you are all, everyone with your hand up, you're playing this game with me. What I'm going to tell you is that in the early years of our organization, I interviewed and hired everyone. Because our organization now is in 11 states with multiple different kind of departments and such, I do not do all the interviews. I want to ask you to vote on which ones that I do. Are you ready? If you're playing, lift up your hands. Lift them up. Lift them up. Okay, first one. We have 36 campuses, those are churches, that are overseen by point pastors, one of the most important roles. Would I interview those roles? Raise your hand if you think so. That's too easy. We're starting with the easy one. Okay, you say yes. There's an associate campus pastor who will be a future campus pastor. Would I interview that role? Pretty dang important. Okay, how about a worship pastor who sets the culture and brings people before the presence of God? Would I be involved at that level? Okay, some of you, about half of you think so. How about the one person that oversees about 40 or 45 worship leaders? Would I be involved there? Okay, let's talk youth pastors. Is youth ministry important enough to get me involved? And the answer is, you don't like youth. So what about the person who's over all of the 45 youth pastors? That's pretty important, right? What about the CFO who would oversee tens of millions of resources that people give for the glory of God, of course. What about we lead the YouVersion Bible app? Pastor Bobby, my closest friend, is the founder and creator. He's here with us. It will be this year on over 1/2 billion devices given away free by a local church. How cool is that? There's a CEO of the YouVersion Bible app. Would I have helped with that interview? Okay, so we can stop there. We could go on all days. Of all those roles I just mentioned, I was not involved in a single interview, not one. Not one. One person's really happy about that. I'm not sure why. Most people would say, why in the world would you not be involved? And the reason is because I'm really burned out and don't care like I used to. Not at all. The truth is, I'm a really good talent spotter. But guess what? If I do it all the time, then other people don't become really good at it. And so as one who is a recovering control freak, I endured significant seasons of chaos, empowering other leaders to grow in a very real way, so they became excellent talent spotters and interviewers. And now there's probably 40 or 50 interviewers on the team who are way better than I am. Way, way better. How did we get there? How do we train those people? How do we keep those people? How do we retain and not lose them? By staying out of the way, enabling them to lead, saying, you are important. I'm not the only one who's good at this. I believe in you. How do you get there? You get there by trusting, empowering, and you have to endure a little chaos. Did they make some bad hires? Yes. Did I make some bad hires? Yes. How do you get better? By being dumb and learning from being dumb. Here's what I learned, and this is so important, I hope you'll write this down. The best leaders don't obsess about controlling outcomes. The best leaders obsess about empowering leaders. It's so important. The best leaders don't try to control everything. We can endure a little bit of chaos. The best leaders obsess about hiring and empowering other leaders. So, to get to the desired outcome, what do you want to see, leader? What are you looking for? What's the goal? What's the win? To get to the desired outcome, you'll need to endure a little chaos. What do we know? The mark of great leadership isn't measured by how much you control, but by the leaders you empower. Question number one, application question. Number one, what are you controlling that you need to let go? I want to let this land because for some of you, this is the very reason you're at this conference. You may be the hindrance to the progress in your organization because you're too controlling. You'll need to endure a little chaos and you'll need to let go. What are you controlling that you need to let go? And if you don't know, ask the person who works for you and all the people around you, and they'll be happy to contribute to your education. We want to grow in our ability to handle a little bit of chaos. If you want to grow, you have to let go. Because you can have control or you can have growth, but you can't have both. Puck, pain, uncertainty, and chaos. Let's talk about uncertainty. What do we know for certain? The only thing that we know for certain is that the future is uncertain. And everybody said, amen, right? I like what my good friend Andy Stanley said about uncertainty. He said, uncertainty is not an indication of poor leadership. It underscores the need for leadership. And in these very uncertain times, your role as a leader is incredibly important. Every single one of you. Your leadership matters more than you can imagine. Let me give you two statements about uncertainty. Because our world is uncertain, a good leader plans for unforeseen challenges. Hopefully you do this. You might have a big unbudgeted repair, or you might have a salesperson take another job, or you might be hit by a lawsuit, or you might have an unexpected downturn in your industry. So a good leader plans for unforeseen challenges. But a great leader also plans for unexpected opportunities. Let me say it again. A good leader plans for unforeseen challenges, But a great leader plans for unexpected opportunities. Why? Because wherever there is uncertainty, there is always opportunity. In fact, as I look back over our course of leadership over 25 years, what I noticed is that the most significant and impactful things we've done were born in uncertain times, and they were things that we never planned to do. I want you to hear this. The most significant things that we did as an organization were not on the 5-year goal list. And I'll give you a few. In 2001, our church was honored to pioneer multi-site movement. There were others doing it, but we didn't know them, they didn't know us, and we were on the front end of experimenting with video teaching and doing church in multiple locations, and we didn't plan to do that. We didn't plan to create the world's first church online platform in 2006. Not just a streaming mechanism, but a highly engaged, relational, with language translation, impacting leaders from all over the world, with evangelism and the Word of God. We didn't plan to do that. We didn't plan in the year 2020 to have been giving it away to just a few hundred churches, to suddenly have thousands of churches need the platform. 45,000 reached out to us and asked for us to give it to them. It was free to them. It was not free to us. We didn't plan to give it away at that level, but we were able to do so. We didn't plan on creating the YouVersion Bible app. My life was changed by a free Bible, and we never planned to give the Bible away for free in the tone of 500 million devices. I didn't plan on launching the Groeschel Leadership Podcast, and this is a shameless plug, so let me call it what it is. If you want to grow in your leadership, it drops the first Thursday of every month, but I didn't plan on something coming later on in my career that would end up impacting more people than the totality of our church, plus church online together. I didn't see that coming. I didn't plan on that. The future is uncertain. Don't just plan for unforeseen challenges, but write this down. What I want to encourage you to do is create margin for opportunities that you can't predict. Create margin today for opportunities coming tomorrow that you don't see coming tomorrow. This is so important. Why were we able to do those things that I mentioned? It's not just that we saw the ideas. And here's the thing. Many of you see the ideas. Oh, we could do this. And someone says, somebody ought to do that. We didn't just see them, but we were able to execute because we had the margin. Anytime there is uncertainty, there is always opportunity. There's always going to be uncertainty, therefore there's always going to be opportunity. Don't just plan for unforeseen challenges, plan for unforeseen opportunities that will be coming. I promise this year, if you create margin, all of a sudden 6 months from now, there'll be a program you want to start and you can start it. A product you want to launch and you can launch it. A building you want to buy and you can buy it. Content you want to create and you can create it. A staff member you want to hire that you didn't plan to hire. If you have the margin, then you can seize the opportunity. It's uncertain. Don't just plan for negative uncertainty, plan for opportunist uncertainty. I love what Bob Goff says. He says, embrace uncertainty. Some of the most beautiful chapters in our lives won't have a title until later. You're in the middle of crazy uncertainty right now, and if you have eyes to see the leadership opportunities there, one day you may tell the story like we did. We never saw the opportunity of church online until it was in front of us, and we were able to seize the opportunity and move forward in it. What is the problem? The world is incredibly uncertain right now. And I'll just tell you transparently, I feel it. Meaning, whatever I do as a leader in my organization, it's second-guessed by everybody. And in a very tense time like this, leaders, we just can't seem to do anything right. If we do this, they hate us. If we do that, they hate us. And if we do this, everybody hates us. And that's where we live, right? And so in uncertain times, we often have a goal as leaders, and our goal, we may not say it out loud, but our goal becomes not failing. I don't want to fail. I don't want to make a mistake. And that is a very, very bad goal. Why? Because the cost of inaction is almost always greater than the cost of a mistake. The cost of inaction is almost always greater than the cost of a mistake. We had a very emotional meeting in the middle and the height of the global pandemic. And as a church, what we're honored to do is we build leaders, we start churches, and we impact a lot of lives that way. And we were in an aggressive growth mode of starting lots of churches. And we were about to break ground on a new church building in Colorado Springs, Colorado, a part of the world that we had not previously been, meaning we didn't have a big core group of people. It would have been considered a high-risk venture for us. It was in the middle of the pandemic when nobody was allowed to meet, and we had to decide, do we break ground or do we retreat? Everyone that I know in my field was retreating and standing back, which seemed like the right thing to do. We gathered together, our top leaders, and in a very emotional moment, we asked ourselves, does the church matter? Yes. Has the church endured through difficult times? Yes. Has the church endured through pandemics before? Yes. Will the church continue to endure and thrive in years to come? Yes. Will people need the church more in the middle of this kind of complicated season than ever before? Yes. Will they gather again like they are today? Yes.